Hello and welcome to the Rock and Roll Station Podcast, Episode 2. My name is Mickey Kravitz. Hope you enjoyed Episode 1 with Alan Lane Nolan. Today we're going to follow down the same path, another member of the band Piper. For those of you that don't know, Piper was Billy Squier, Alan Lane Nolan, Danny McGary, Richie Fontana, and today's guest, Tommy Gunn, one of the other guitarists. Piper released 2 records in the 70s, self-titled Piper and the second Can't Wait. Managed by Bill Aucoin, signed to A&M Records, toured with Kiss, The Babies, Angel, The Runaways, and a few other bands. Still to this day, one of my all-time favorite bands. So thanks again for checking out the Rock and Roll Station Podcast. Before we get to Tommy Gunn, just want to let you know that this podcast is sponsored by Mickey Allen Kravitz, Mac Hair Products. Specializing in hair growth support shampoos, conditioners, purple shampoo conditioner, eyelash and eyebrow and hair growth serum, and a lot of styling products. You can check everything out at Amazon or machair.com, makhair.com. And if you like what's going on here, click the little subscribe button and you'll be notified next time I post another interview. Up next, Tommy Gunn from the band Piper. On the phone, we have the original Tommy Gunn. Tommy, hello.
Hey, how are you, Alan? And hello out there.
I'm great. You're in New York still, right?
No, I'm actually living in Montana.
Oh, you're kidding. But you
Yeah, I live in Missoula, Montana.
Oh, wow. But you grew up in New York, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Before we get into this, I did want to mention, how is your pup? I knew you were, thank you so much for taking the time to call in. Your little puppy was sick, so just wanted to see.
Yeah, well, there's a chance that he may have some jaw cancer, and we're hoping that we're trying to fight this thing in his mouth with it. He had some teeth extracted,
Right.
And we're kind of hoping against hope, but he's like 13.
Right.
And he's the sweetest little corgi.
Well,
the
I'm sorry to hear
policeman, if you will.
Right. Right.
But I don't have to tell you because you love me.
Yeah,
you have yours.
I have 2 Bernedoodles, brother and sister, Alice Cooper and Dr. Spooky Muffin.
All right.
But anyway,
amazing.
I don't know if Alan has told you. I got the hang out with Alan the other day in Hollywood. Went to the Rainbow and had a couple drinks. Piper has been one of my all-time favorite bands since I was a kid. And
thank you.
It's like, to me, Piper is like maybe for you the Beatles or the Stones. You know what I mean?
Well, that's very kind of you to say.
Great. Those 2 records are both amazing, still to this day. Now, when you were growing up, what were your influences, though, growing up?
My influences were, in the very beginning, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to play, my sister had a lot of records. My older sister, she was 7 years older than myself, and she had a lot of records, and a lot of them were Fabian and Tab Hunter and, Teen Idol kind of people like that. But she also had Lead Belly.
Okay.
She had blues records, and she had Buddy Holly records. And the Buddy Holly records really caught my ear. And from there, I started to listen more and, pay more attention to guitar as a solo instrument.
So how old were you when you started playing?
14 and a half.
All right.
It's been a lot of years.
Right. And, Alan told me that you used to he would watch you take Hendrix and play it backwards to learn the leads or something to that effect. I wasn't sure exactly what he was saying.
Actually, I had, in the old days, I had there was a company called Acoustic Research, and I guess they might still exist, but they had a belt-driven turntable that if you spun it backwards and threw the switch right after you spun it, it would play the record backwards. So I got to listen to all of Hendrix's backwards solos
Now, how would you
the
learn
things
that, though?
Well, I figured out. I watched people. I spent a lot of time watching people. Whether it was Chuck Berry, they were all building off the same basic, the same basic scales. So it was, and I would just listen to these things and go, oh, so that's what he did.
Right.
Of course, the song Are You Experienced? The whole middle section is a march. And Hendrix and Mitchell and Redding are just playing a march in one key.
I'll have to go back and listen.
You can probably, you can find it they have it on YouTube now.
Okay.
Somebody put it up.
Now, what was your first starting of bands? How old were you when you got in your first band?
Oh, well, the first band I was ever in was a band called The Wax Tattoo.
Okay.
we figured we'd come up with some crazy name, right? And I was in school, and it was the school combo. And get this is really a great story because I tell this often. The music teacher knew Les Paul.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know who Les Paul was. Because, Les Paul's guitars it was Les Paul and Mary Ford. It was a different kind of music than I was interested in.
Okay.
My parents listened to it. Anyway, he arranged and booked the school combo to come up and record a few songs in his home studio in New Jersey.
Wow.
And, Mickey, the funny thing about this is that little did I know what Les Paul was contributing to music.
Right.
I had no idea at the time, but all of his the control room of his studio was all pegboard, and hanging on the pegboards were all of his prototype Les Paul guitars.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible. But I think back now, and I go, oh, if only I knew what I was,
Right, and I wonder what those are worth. Today, those are worth $1 million.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I just couldn't, I couldn't appreciate it. But what I was doing was cutting my teeth on recording.
Right.
So that was my first experience in a combo, in a unit. And that was the beginning of what I said, I really just want to do this for the rest of my life.
Is that available to hear anywhere?
I think I have them on. I have them on cassettes. So what I have to do is download the cassettes to files, and I'll send you the files.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear it.
They're hilarious. They're adorable. None of us really knew what we were doing, but we kind of did. So all right, Tommy, you be the lead guitar player. Okay, Bob Hauser's the singer and rhythm guitar. We just assigned, everybody had an assignment, and that was the beginning of it all.
Now, have you stayed in touch with that band leader through the years?
No, actually, I was in touch with one of the members of the band. I don't know what happened to the others. But, it's been a lot of years since we were in school together.
Right.
So he's doing fine. His name is Barry Goldman. He played drums, bass, and keyboards. So he did 3 things.
Wow.
And sang 4 things. I was just the lead guitar player. What did I know?
Well, at that point, you learned how to record, and then where'd you go?
Then I started to really immerse myself in playing. I started to immerse myself in surrounding myself with a lot of great people, like the great keyboard player Bobby Blaine.
Okay.
He was in the Dolls.
Oh, wow.
You know, the second incarnation of the Dolls. You know, but Bobby was, you know, I learned a lot from him. I got to play with a lot of incredibly good musicians and learned so much from them.
And there was an amazing music scene in New York at that time, I'm sure.
Yes, I mean, Mickey, you could go to Max's. You could go to. We would play at Max's, play at the Electric Circus, the Cheetah Club, Ondine's, all over the place. There were tons of venues to play at, you know, and we just about covered them all, you know.
Right.
In different incarnations. You know, I would join different bands and we'd all get gigs and end up playing the same places, you know?
So at that point, how did you meet Billy? Did you meet Aucoin, Bill Aucoin first, or did you meet Billy, or did you see Billy around town playing in other bands?
Actually, what happened was I had done some work with Danny, bass player Danny.
Right.
And who was just the sweetest guy on the earth. He and I had been in several different bands together. So, and playing around the New York scene. He got involved, excuse me, he got involved with Billy and Richie Fontana.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually the last person to join the band because they were thinking about either getting another guitar player or a keyboard player was a possibility. Well, I was used to playing keyboard parts on guitar, so I was good at that arpeggio stuff, you know?
Right.
So we did. We were really when we first got together, it just clicked. You know, everything. Danny said to me, "Why don't you come down? You know what? You know, we'll see what happens." And everything worked.
Now, you guys just rehearsal. No, there was no gigs because I heard that you guys just played You just rehearsed. And then got a record deal, recorded, and then did your first show.
Right. Which is kind of like the opposite of the way that...
Yeah, exactly.
We had no experience playing together out, you know?
Well, you wouldn't have known it. I saw you guys twice. So, you know, I saw you with Angel and the Babies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we were seasoned enough and determined enough to want to be really good. We didn't want to be pigeonholed, you know, because we came from places where there were a lot of influences. I think two of the major influences on Piper, as far as our guitar lineup was concerned, was Moby Grape, and the San Francisco band,
mm-hmm.
and Fleetwood Mac, the original Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green,
right?
And those were more of where we were coming from, musically, root-wise.
I don't hear the in there personally. I hear like just a heavy Stones is what I hear. Or as a kid, that's what I thought of. I'm like, oh, this is like the Stones, but it's heavier.
Oh yeah, we stacked up on Marshalls. We played. Billy played his Strat, his 57 Strat, but Alan, Will, And we were always on Gibsons of some sort, if not, I had, I was on the Hamer, and I had a 335 that I've had since 1968.
Oh, wow.
And I still have it to this day. It's an ES 335 TD, and I put 3 humbuckers in it. It had 2. I put a third one in to get a little more versatility in the sound. And I used that for the audition, and I took it on the road. I used it, and I recorded the whole first album with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when you first met Billy, what was your impression, and what did you think of those songs?
Billy, I always thought Billy was a really nice fellow. We had a very relaxed relationship. He was not, he was the leader of the band.
Right.
I mean, he was writing, and so I was the last guy in. To me, I was really signing on for a gig, if you know what I mean.
Right.
When I first walked in there, but as it turned out, they said, well, why don't we make this a band? And then they came up with a name, and all of that stuff.
How was Bill to work with, Bill Aucoin?
Bill Aucoin was great, and Sean was great, Sean Delaney.
Right.
Bill was a very relaxed guy. He had a great deal of success, and I'm sure his own success surprised even him with Kiss.
Yes.
He was, but he was he didn't say a lot all the time, but he was very observant. Like when you were in a meeting with him, you could watch, he would read people, and he was really good at doing it. He taught me a lot about the business, and just listening to him speak was great. Because it wasn't that long ago that he made all of his own ridiculous mistakes.
Right.
So his success happened quite rapidly.
With you and Kiss and some other bands.
And Stars, yeah.
Stars, yeah.
But the funny thing was, when we would open for Kiss, for example, we did the Garden, and for a couple of nights, and trying to open for Kiss is like stepping in front of a Mack truck.
I'm sure.
While it's moving at about 50 miles an hour, you're standing in front of their set, which is so huge that there's nothing. They cover it up, but you can still see the whole entire thing,
right?
Because it's huge. So the only thing that you can do is play your ass off, and that's what we did. We, when we walked out at the Garden, I remember, I think my girlfriend and my mother was there. Those are the only 2 friendly faces in the audience
at the Garden, and it's huge.
But the thing was, Mickey, I realized people were giving us the finger.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, they wanted Kiss. They didn't want to hear. They didn't care about us. So I said, well, here I am. I'm here in front of 20,000 or 19,000 people, my hometown. And the only weapon that I had to defend myself was my guitar,
Yeah.
I just played as hard and played as accurately and as technically proficiently as I could, and you know, by the end of the set, we had encores.
Oh, nice.
You know, and same with the Palladium when we played there for Angel. We were opening for Angel, and you know, I mean, Punky and all those guys, they were really nice to us too.
Oh, I do have a question. It just reminded me something when you were saying how you were playing. Okay, so I remember you used to do this thing where you would point to your finger and bend the note. Do you remember doing that stuff back then?
Yeah.
Okay, and I saw Punky do the same thing.
Oh.
So I'm wondering who did this first?
Well, I think he used to point his fingers all over the place.
Right, yeah.
I just did it kind of internally in comparison. It wasn't so grandiose. I did it, you know, for show on me.
Right.
Rather than pointing at the drummer and having him do a fill, you know?
Right.
So, you know, but, you know, Punky was a nice guy. And they were all nice. They were so nice to us. We were very lucky.
Yeah, I saw that tour. In Kansas City, I saw that was Angel and you guys.
Right. It was, you know, it was a lot of fun. In my opinion, I thought Piper was a better band than our albums led on. I think if we'd have recorded another album, I think this would have been a lot different for that.
I think so too. Now,
you know,
okay, you did the first record. How long did that take anyway to record that first record?
Let's see. We were up there. We were at Eastern Sound in Toronto, Canada, for 3 weeks, something like that.
Why was it mixed 3 times? I mean, I'm sure you know, you just weren't happy with the mixes, but by any chance, did you hear all 3 mixes?
Yeah.
What was the difference?
Here's the thing. John Anthony came in, and John Anthony had produced Queen, and he produced Genesis, and he produced Lindisfarne, and all of these other acts. He kind of viewed us as more of garage rock, not a garage band, but a pretty raucous, very raw sounding.
Okay.
Not sterile. And so, you know, it wouldn't be like producing a Queen record.
No, exactly. The opposite.
The opposite. You know, songs like Out of Control, 42nd Street.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff, you know, that's just raw. That's just from the hip. Let the shit fly, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the mixes I heard ranged from some things sounding really good, other things sounding like the drums sounding like cardboard boxes, and they weren't happy with the sounds, so they had to remix the drums, and they had to, you know, there was a lot of animosity going on in there after a while, because John Anthony did what he thought. He signed us, and he did what he thought was right, as far as producing us. And I didn't really feel that after remixing it 3 times, to me, it was marginally different.
Okay.
There really wasn't that much of a difference in the final outcome versus the prior mixes. You know, things were more up front, maybe a little cleaner here and there. But overall, there really wasn't that much of a difference because we were a mid-range band. We were like 3 guitars.
Yeah.
We were not, we weren't glistening and we weren't like sparkly. We were just raw.
Were you happy with the Eddie Kramer final?
Again, it didn't really, I don't think it changed much. I mean, he did this and he did that, but yeah, I mean, I guess it came out, but it didn't come out that different
right
than the original. He may have added echoes and had a little more separation and placed things in the sound stage a little differently than John Anthony did. John Anthony really, his sound stage was kind of like what we were on stage.
That sounds like a good plan.
To me, that's how I always saw it,
Now, when you went in to do the second record, what was the difference? Was there a big difference in, songwriting, going into the studio and recording?
Yeah. We recorded it at Electric Lady, and we had Chris Kimsey, who had produced the Stones, and Sean Delaney as well. That record, although it had some really cool tunes on it, the closest thing that I think Piper came to being Piper was Little Miss Intent.
I love that song.
I think, my way of thinking, that would have been the closest, and then of course some of the stuff that we did on the first album, which to me actually was less poppy than the second album. The second album was much different in production.
Huh. Did Billy write some of those songs on the road between the records? Because you guys did those pretty quick between the two. There wasn't a lot of time.
Yeah, well, he had an arsenal of songs. He had songs that he wrote, like Danny, and Danny had input on 42nd Street and so on. I mean, these songs existed before, I mean, when I got there to begin with, all of these songs were all of the songs were already there.
For both records?
I don't think for both records, not completely.
So a lot of the stuff for the second Can't Wait, Billy did on the road, or because, like I said, they were not much time between recording those two records.
No, but I know he was writing all the time when he could. Like he lived on the Upper West Side at the time. I think he lived on Amsterdam Avenue, and he was always home writing and doing that. So a lot of the material for the second album, was probably written when we got, once we finished with the touring.
Right.
He was already on the case. He was already penning stuff.
Now, you guys did, 10, 12 shows with Kiss? Something like that?
I'm not sure of the number, actually. We did a few. I mean, one of the best parts about it was watching from backstage and watching how elaborate and how incredible all the pyrotechnics were. It was hilarious to watch.
I'm sure. Were those guys pretty cool to you?
Well, it was fun. It was like, wow. Oh, so that's how they do that without blowing themselves up, Now,
this was a time when nobody knew what those guys looked like.
No. I knew what they looked like. I used to eat lunch with Gene down at what was it? The hamburger. There was a hamburger place downstairs, the hamburger chef or the magic chef or whatever. And we would go downstairs and grab a hamburger at in downstairs from 645 Madison, where our Aucoin's offices were.
Wow. And those guys, you know, I haven't really heard them say too much about some of the other, you know, some of the bands. They talk about some of the bands they toured with in the 80s and 90s and stuff, but I've never heard them mention Piper or anything.
Yeah, I think they, you know, it's funny you say that, because I think they were still, they had, when Piper was recording, it wasn't long before that they had made their first $1 million.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, they were just beginning to, like, it was all sinking into them too.
Right.
You know, they weren't like the Stones. 45. This is the 45th tour of, you know.
Yeah.
They were still kind of reeling from their own success, and a little bit surprised from it as well, I'm sure. But never a condescending word from any of them. I mean, they were very nice to us, you know, because we were all in the same stable.
Right. Now, at the end, I was always curious what happened here. Why did the band break up? Did Billy come to you? Did Bill Aucoin come to you? How did that all come down?
Well, what happened was, I had heard that Will was leaving. He wanted to go play punk.
Right.
And, you know, which was fine. You know, whatever. Free country, do what you want. So, but he was interested in a different kind of music, and he was, you know, no longer, he didn't want to be called Farrah Fawcett anymore, you know. He was more into just doing raw punk music and very raw rock and roll. So he pretty much quit the band. He was the first guy to go. And then when asked, I think Bill asked Billy, he said, well, what do you want to do? Because we were kind of planning on going to England to record a third album.
Oh, okay.
At the Manor over there. But, you know, things were, you know, uncertain. And then I think Billy realized that he had a lot of material that he was going to, he had a lot of material that he was going to run with by himself. And he had the confidence to do the, you know, to do a solo thing by himself.
Do you know if you or anyone has any video of Piper live? Is there anything left out there?
I don't think. I think Richie Fontana has. Richie, I think, has something, but the sound is terrible. I haven't seen this. He's only told me about it. That some videos were done of us.
I would love to see that.
Rehearsing. Yeah, I mean, videos were done of us rehearsing. So, you know, that's the extent of it. I mean, really, unless you went in to make in Don Kirshner's rock concert, you weren't, you know, you weren't. There really wasn't any video.
That's a drag, because that's something I would love to see.
Yeah, so would I. I mean, you know, it was a fun time. It was a lot of fun. So when Will left the band, I think Billy just said, "Oh, I'm going to give it a go alone," and and he did quite well for himself.
Yes, he did.
Until that faithful video kind of
Right.
did, which I kind of felt was it. Well, it just shows you how unfair an audience can be.
True.
It because it seems that everybody just forgot about anything good that he did, right?
Of course, one of the best, one of my all-time favorite songwriters of all time.
Right, and but like he did a lot of really good stuff, and then and his solo stuff, he did really a lot of good stuff, but all of a sudden, because of satin sheets and dancing around, and people aren't allowed to make a mistake.
Exactly.
and that's a shame because he just came out with something.
Yeah, have you heard it?
Yeah.
It's great. It's like he never went away.
Right.
His voice sounds perfect.
Right. He's there. I think he had a lot of soul searching to do. I've continued to play, and play forever, and I, record with people and do.
What did you do right after the band broke up? Didn't you do a little project with Richie for a while? Or what
I
did you do?
A couple of projects with Richie, and then branched out and did some. There were some road shows of the show Godspell. So they needed a pit musician, a pit guitar player. So I did that. See, I used to do Jesus Christ Superstar and Godspell.
Oh, wow.
Before I used to do like Broadway shows and the road tours.
Right.
So,
any other records that are out that I can find that you were on after Piper? No. I mainly worked on demo stuff. I'll see if I can dig up some stuff. I do a lot of recording on my own now. Right.
One thing I never liked doing, I don't know if you're like this, but I don't like being an engineer.
Yeah, it's kind of a drag.
To me, it's like I'll sit down and I'll be inspired, and I want to write, and I want to play, and I want to get this down, but I don't want to learn 50 things to do that.
Right.
Because I come from an analog era of, I'll put on a cassette recorder so I don't forget the idea,
Yeah.
I work with GarageBand, but there's and Pro Tools and the like, but it's tough to wear two hats at the same time. I'm just not one of those kind of people that can do that.
I get it. Now Oh no, go on.
Oh, I just like to play. That's what I want to do.
Right. And you're good at it. You're still in touch with everybody, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Have you talked to Billy recently?
Except for Billy. We had a get together in 2015, but he was out of town. He couldn't make it. We all met at a restaurant, and it was nice. It was great to see everybody, and Billy kind of just went his own way, He kind of got away from Piper, and that broke up that scene, and that was it. And Richie was the only one who was really working on the Paul Stanley records, and
right.
He was still in that stable, so. and I was out playing around with other people doing other people's music, which is what I was doing to begin with. I was always more just a guitar player. I didn't want to be a front man. I didn't want to be anything like that. I just wanted to play. That was my main goal.
Was it, on the same kind of lines as Piper music? Was it rock and roll stuff? What were you mainly doing?
Oh, yeah. Rock, anything from rock and roll, blues, jazz, country influence stuff, Buffalo, Springfield kind of stuff. As you well know, there's so many great art forms and so many great types of music out there to be playing that, and I'm fortunate that I'm good enough to play pretty much any one of them, so I don't have a problem doing that.
But the way it is, it's so easy to record files and send them. You guys should write a song, without Billy involved. Just you guys do it. Yeah,
I know.
That would be amazing.
I thought about that. We're all. I know that Richie Fontana claims that he's technically challenged as far as
right.
Recording and stuff like that. Like he's kind of got the same. It puts him off to be an engineer kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that we might, that would be something. And Richie would be. Have you spoken to Richie?
Not yet. He's going to get back to me. I hope to do Richie sometime this week.
Oh,
and
okay.
Danny, I haven't heard back from. If you get a chance, send him a message. I sent him a message on Facebook, but I'm not friends with him on there, so he hasn't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Because I'll definitely send him a note.
Perfect. Thank you.
Give him your number, as Will did to me. So, but it's a funny game, music. As you well know, you've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And you know the pitfalls. From where you speak, and the questions you're asking shows that. It can be a very disappointing business.
Yeah.
It's never been. I was disappointed that Piper broke up because they were my friends.
Yeah, you guys used to. Even actually, Alan told me that you painted one of his guitars on your mom's balcony.
Oh yeah, maybe
with spray paint or like a sprayer.
Yeah, I think we did something like that. We sprayed, and he had an SG or something. I think we sprayed it white or something. I had an SG that I sprayed white.
Something like that.
And but and I don't think it was one of his guitars, but he's and he's a phenomenal guitar player as well, and a great singer.
Yes, he is.
He really, like, he and Billy and Richie all had great voices and complemented each other very well as far as harmonies went in the band.
Yeah. Still to this day, I continue to say it. Those two Piper records pretty much changed my life. That was like, this is what a real rock and roll band is.
Yeah, that's very, very kind of you to say. I'm really happy that it made that much of an impression on you. I really, I think, had we done another record, like I said before, things would have been different.
I think so,
a lot of things would have been different. But, it was kind of up to Billy and Bill Aucoin. So that was what happened. And really, Will just left. So he didn't want to do it anymore. He had his own course to follow.
Well, there's a lot of time that's passed. I'm going to continue to cross my fingers and see if you guys will send some files back and forth, write a new song, at least one. That'd be amazing.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I do it. I just, in fact, every Sunday I play with a guy who's in Boston, and I use this thing called the Elk Bridge.
Okay.
Did you ever hear of Jamlink?
No.
Well, it was a thing where it's like low latency. So, like, I can play online.
Okay.
With, let's say, I can play online with you. If you had one of these units, the Elk unit,
right?
It's like a little interface. You could plug in where you are, and I can plug in where I am, and we could play together and sound like we're in the same room.
Right. Well, that's cool. Every Sunday.
Yeah, that's what
Can other people watch?
There's this guy in Boston who's a great bass player who I've known for many years, and I just love playing with him. And of course, I live out here; he lives there, so there's really no way we're going to get together, except for special occasions.
Can anybody log on and watch, or is it just between you guys?
I think, it's just between the people that have, like, the bridge.
Oh, okay.
Like the unit.
Right.
So, like, the unit is like $340, and it's a $15 a month subscription, but this way you can have up to 6 or 8 people, I think. I don't know how many play. You can have whole band rehearsals.
Nice.
Technology
has changed.
Pandemic.
Yeah, technology has completely changed, and I'm so glad we're done with that.
The record industry.
Yeah. Oh my God, nobody buys records anymore.
No. I mean, you just stream them, you download them, which I really missed because I used to love going to my local record store and buying an album, reading it, looking at the album art.
For hours.
And looking to see who played on what song, and it was a great thing. And now it's just totally different. Now it's just like, okay, it's on your phone, it's here, it's there.
Yeah, that was the best time. I'm so glad and happy that I got to grow up in that time where I got to experience records and taking that time to listen to a record from the beginning to the end and reading all the notes.
Right, exactly. That was so much fun. And now, if you mention records to somebody, they think it has to do with the police.
Yeah,
they don't even know what a record is. So we are fortunate. And again, I really wish I knew. There is this guy, Chris Turnbow, who I'm friends with on Facebook. He has the Piper Appreciation fan page.
Yeah.
And he finds things with Piper that no one finds.
Wow.
Only Chris can find these things. But even he can't find any videos.
Yeah, maybe there are somewhere. Somebody has something. You would think.
That's what I think.
Yeah. There has to be. Well, I'm going to continue to look. So I'm going to ask around too.
Yeah. Well, that's a wonderful thing. There really is. And, but I mean, we just continue on, and I mean, right now we're living here in Montana, which we're just coming out of winter.
Oh, here in Los Angeles.
Winter in Montana is like 6 months long.
Oh, really? Well, I don't know if you've heard all the bad weather we've had here in Los Angeles. It's just pouring rain and it's cold. It's not.
Have you been horribly affected by that?
Oh, yeah. My hillside fell.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, it's not nice right now, I tell you.
Yeah. That must be very scary.
But anyway, Tommy, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I appreciate every minute you gave me today. And I know you have to take care of your sick pup. And I've been a lifelong fan of Piper. Everyone in the band, amazing musicians. You know, I don't even know what to say. This is, a great day for me.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and you made my day, and we will continue to be friends. Are we friends on Facebook? Not yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, we will be.
All right. And if you get a chance, don't forget.
I have a file. Listen, I've been working with a lot of modelers, guitar modelers.
Uh-huh.
So I got a little ditty I'll send you.
All right.
It's a lot of fun.
Perfect. And if you find any of that, your first recording, whenever you get it, I want to hear it.
Okay. I'll send that to you, too.
All right, Tommy. The one and only Tommy Gunn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a very good weekend.
It's a pleasure talking to you.
You too, my friend.
You too.
Bye-bye. There he goes, the one and only original Tommy Gunn from the band Piper. That was episode 2 of the Rock and Roll Station podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button. I'll see y'all later.